Hello, my name is Eric. Uh, Major is to be decided, and my ultimate or highest career goal is teacher. The first question is, what were your preconceptions or stereotypes of middle age? I thought what would be considered stereotypes such as sad and trying to hold on to youth. Learning from my mom, who would be considered middle-aged people are just kind of young people with more health problems. Not much changes in the thoughts of people going from young to middle age, other than the responsibilities they have. Question number 2, what were your preconceptions or stereotypes of old age? My thoughts on old people before this class were people who couldn't do much anymore. Old people are feeble and need help with every step of their day. They are near death and sad. These were things I thought, but speaking with my grandparents and watching the interviews of other people's parents and grandparents, I know that old people are just older, young people. My grandparents couldn't be more like young people in every aspect except for their age. Number 3, share how knowledge gained has influenced some of your plans, thoughts, or behaviors for the immediate future. Speaking with my grandparents probably had the biggest impact on me. I signed up for a 401k at my work with their recommendation and with the lessons mentioning financing. I think my mom's views and my grandparents' views on age range is a very positive one, and I think that even when I'm their age, I will still view myself as young, even though I will be middle-aged and old eventually. In our attempts to define age, it was easier to define categories of young, middle-aged, and old when it was common for people to die at the age of 55 or 60. Today, in developed countries, we see how much more common it is to live into our 90s and 100s. Given this fact, think of a better way to define the stages of aging. I think young can be considered any age any age between born and mid to late 30s. Middle age is between late 30s to early mid 50s, and finally, old is anywhere between late 50s and beyond. But in the words of my grandparents, you are only as old as you feel, so if you feel young well into your 90s, then you are young. How many stages of life would be accurate from birth to death if we consider death to be at the average age of 95 to 105? I think the stages of ages would be newborn, 0 to 6 months, baby, 6 months to 1 year, toddler, 1 year to 4 years, child, 4 years to 11 years, teen, 12 years to 18 years, young adult, 18 to 23 years, adult, 23 years to 35 years, middle-aged, 35 to 55 years, and old, 55 to 105 years old. What factors define the stages you have created? I think I defined newborn a little arbitrarily. 6 months just seems like the appropriate cutoff for newborns. Babies, I think, are defined by an inability to do anything on their own. Babies don't have very much, if any, independence. I think independence begins at toddlers, and I think that's the major difference between babies and toddlers. Toddlers are at the age where they need to learn to do things on their own, like toileting, brushing teeth, cleaning up after themselves. Child is an evolution of those independent things turning into responsibilities. They are no longer learning those things, it is expected of them. So I think there is a shift here from learning basics to those basics becoming an expected norm. Teens are becoming more independent as they are moving forward in their learning and they are creating their own personalities. They are not only becoming more independent in a responsibility sense, they are also becoming independent from their parents as they want to see what true freedom feels like. Adult is that true freedom, or so it feels like it. Being an adult is just being past the age of 18. Once you hit that, you are a legal adult and have certain responsibilities expected of you. I think the beginning of adulthood is much more stressful than the middle or the end because of all the expectations from older adults. Middle age is defined by just that, being the middle of the aging process. I think middle age stereotype has far exceeded what it's actually like. I interviewed my mom, and she says she doesn't feel middle age, she just feels like an adult, and I think that rings true for a lot of people within the middle age range. The final stage is old. I think old is seen more through the lens of stereotype more often than not. Interviewing my grandparents has taught me that being young is forever if you feel young forever, and I think that's a good sentiment. In the aging process, review the priorities discussed in your interviews and review the chapter headings in your textbook. I think the two biggest issues I will face is self-doubt and health problems. My mom and grandparents didn't mention it in their interviews, but it is a common issue between them that you will have moments of self-doubt, and the only way to beat it is to grow older and wiser than you were. The second issue is health problems because our health tends to deteriorate with age. You can sometimes counteract these issues with diet and exercise, but sometimes you just want to sit down after a long day of work and eat the juiciest and greasiest burger in the world. What can you do now in order to make those issues less traumatic? I think mental health therapy is a good thing to use to make the issue of self-doubt less invasive and less traumatic. And for health issues, as I mentioned, diet and exercise is a good way, and also making sure you see your doctor at least once a year for a routine checkup. In the aging process, what do you consider to be the two biggest issues you will face in the period of time after you retire until your death? I think the biggest and most prominent issue would be alleviating boredom. Socialization subsides as you get older, and if I become unable to do the hobbies I have learned to love throughout the years, then I think boredom will be a very big issue to overcome. The second biggest issue, ironically, is deteriorating health. I think a lot of people in the age of 70s to older would rather be dead than debilitatingly bored. What can you do now in order to make those issues less traumatic? Both issues are very difficult to make less traumatic, especially when planning, hopefully, so far ahead in my future. I suppose something I could do to help with boredom is plan accordingly and find hobbies that can be done through hardship, and the debilitating health thing can't really be helped unless through regular doctor visits and hoping scientists find a cure for death. Where I currently am, I want to be a teacher. So the things I will implement will be fully understanding the students as best I can and putting their emotions first. I understand that it is difficult to be one-on-one with students as a teacher, but I really want to give it my best. Another thing I want to implement is going easy on students with deadlines. I want them to do their best, but I also want them to not worry about being stressed from deadlines. I think this class has given me a lot to think about through a lot of different viewpoints, and I really appreciate interviewing my mom and my grandparents and learning their feelings and how you never feel old. It's just a label that's put on you when you either reach a certain age or you look a certain way. Thank you.